Hi guys, this is Carrie. Welcome to A Crone's Life. Today I kind of wanted to go over some of my deck setups that I've really enjoyed and some that I haven't. I'm not really sure how to plan ahead for reusing the deck setups. It's been fairly random and fun. I've really enjoyed the I don't have to think about it too much aspect of my deck setups or my week setup. That's probably the best way to explain it. So I'm going to start today with what I already have sitting out. This is the Interrobang tarot deck, and it has been lovely, wonderful. I would not change it as a part of my setup. This is a very minimalistic deck. I really enjoy the freedom and beauty of it, the simplicity of it. And the guidebook is also very simple. It has a small amount of information about each card, but it does use some keywords that are a little bit different than what I've seen in the past, so that's very nice. I'm using the Reclaim Oracle as my position number 2. Of course, anyone who's used the Reclaim Oracle knows how wonderful this deck is. This is the Kantagi Oracle. It's very poetic and storytelling. It has a lot to it. The guidebook is pretty big, and again, I've very much enjoyed this. I'm wondering if maybe I should use this on its own sometime because it is so full of information. And then my last deck is the Star Lore Tarot from Urania Press. And I think this is the odd man out. This is the one I'm not really sure what to do with. I find myself choosing either the constellation story for the reading, or I use the tarot reading. I feel like I'm not getting as much out of this as I could. And I also don't feel like it goes with the rest of the decks that are sitting here with it. I'm not sure if maybe this deck isn't right for me at this point in time. Maybe I need to set it aside and come back to it some other time. Zeke's Arcana is an awesome tarot deck, and I really enjoy using it, but it did not, it didn't talk with the other decks on my setup, and you know, it kind of overwhelmed the day. It overwhelmed the message. I felt like it was, forgive me, I felt like it was a little snooty. Like, I don't need you guys telling, any extra information. I've got this. So Zeke's Arcana was similar to this. This is more in its own world, not snooty or anything. It's just doing its own thing, and I'm not sure that I personally, I don't think that I'm reading this correctly. I think this is really more of a problem with me. I started this deck setup strategy back in July 2024, and I had worked up to the current setup from January. What I was trying to do in January is what I'm basically doing now, where I have a spread, a very specific spread. Say like today is shadow work, and it has prompts. It has 6 prompts. So back in January, I was trying to do like one or two decks, not the four that I have right now. But I don't know. I think it didn't work out because I was trying to make everything a sticker. So to be honest with you, I really love Dawn Michelle's journals. Like her art journals and her tarot journals are beautiful, and I just kind of wanted to replicate what she had been doing. I really had a hard time with coming together, with my feelings coming together from the journaling to the tarot practice. So because I had that blockage for the journaling, I didn't do anything until July. And somehow in July it clicked. I'm not sure how I came up with the idea to do 4 different decks. But I started with the Dark Woods Tarot and the Barbara Walker and Pathfinder. I believe it's Pathfinder Oracle. And because I just kind of let it do its own thing, the whole flow worked. It evolved into what it is now. And that feeling of just letting things flow, letting the universe tell me what was coming next, letting everything carry me away. Feeling of the flow worked for me, and it felt right. Like sometimes you have these kind of icky oogie feelings, like I feel like I'm forcing something. So when I choose my decks, there's something about what I'm seeing on my shelves. I'm looking for things that go together, but how do you define that? How do you decide that the Kantagee Oracle and the Reclaim Oracle go together? You really don't decide that at all. I believe they just said they wanted to go together. I may have forced the Star-Lore Tarot into this because I wanted to work with it. So in that respect, I probably did not trust the feelings that I had before. I don't even think of it like trusting myself. I think of it like I'm trusting the universe. I'm trusting the energies around me to lay things out in a way that I can understand them. But to be honest with you, almost all these decks, and I'm trying to watch them go, the craziest setups, like Barbara Walker and the Dark Woods, really? I mean, who would have thought? But because I got such good readings from that first the first 3 deck setup, the Pathfinder, the Dark Woods, and the Barbara Walker, because I got such good readings from that, that's the reason why I was able to continue to put these kind of decks together and go with the flow and trust the process. Candy has always given us the strength. When something talks to you, don't dismiss it. Or try not to. I mean, just listen for a minute and see what it's having to say, because I needed the Barbara Walker and the Darkwood Tarot to go together. I needed to see how odd and awesome those two worked. And this is when I started using 4, because I had a Talisman Oracle, and the strength of the other decks really pulled it up. And that's kind of what I'm trusting in when I let the decks jump out at me or let the decks put themselves together. I was worried when I was putting these decks together that it was me being lazy, like, oh, this is this, and not really thinking about it and not trying to put them together. But once I started using the decks that jumped out at me, the decks that were talking to me, once I started putting those together and really using them, I realized that this isn't about me. This isn't me being any particular way. This is letting everything around me work for me, work with me. And I don't think I could have come up with this if I had really thought about it and said, this is what I want to do. I don't think I could have come up with this setup. The universe, the spirits around me, the energies, I don't even know how to describe it, but the flow put this together for me. And I'm trying to pick out some of my favorite deck setups. And to be honest with you, I think I'm kind of nostalgic because the first ones that I did in July are so awesome. I think it's because they made me feel confident, and they made me feel like it's working, like everything was coming together. So from then on, it's not that things went downhill or anything, it's just it got a little less special in my mind. Not that it was less special, but just I was over that romance of, oh my God, this is working. So once I started using that deck, I realized how flexible the system was that was set out in front of me. Again, I just want to say that I don't believe there's any way I could have personally come up with this system. It's so unique in my mind. Like, I don't have the experience that would have made this work if I had thought it up myself. So I'm very excited about sharing this with you. I hope that I don't come across too weird. Every time I turned around, there was something really fascinating. There was a fascinating conversation going on amongst the cards. So on the next deck setup, I have a Hollow Moon, the black and white deck to the left. That is a Thoth-based deck by Pixel Occult, I believe. And then the Inner Ecology Oracle that I backed on Kickstarter. And then the Oracle to the right is a Mantra Oracle. I think it's just called Mantra, but I can't quite remember. And then the 3-card spread is the Cosmic Coven Tarot deck, and it is Rider-Waite-Smith based. Of course, this one was wonderful. I think that the Hollow Moon really was the strongest deck in this setup, but the Inner Ecology gives it a run for its money. I started using the mantra deck for a lot of things after this setup. I still do mantras. I try to listen to one every morning. I'm not able to sit down and meditate with my mantras. I generally am cleaning the house while I'm listening to it. It still calms me. It still works, I think, the way that it's meant to. But yeah, I struggle with finding quiet time for for my mantras. So, but that is something that I've incorporated from this particular setup into my daily life. So. When a card has the information on the back instead of just a guidebook, it's very nice for when I'm traveling. I don't have to juggle a whole lot of stuff around to be able to translate and jot down keynotes from the information on the card. It makes it very handy. I love this setup. It's been a couple of hours and I decided to go ahead and change this out. I told my husband that life is too short to deal with something that's frustrating, and this tarot deck, I used it a little bit while we were in New Mexico, but I didn't really get much time with it, so I'm gonna use this, The Tarot of Plants by Heather Enders. She's a local artist to Taos, New Mexico, so I have this one, and it looks really nice with the interrobang, so I think this is going to work out nicely. I was trying to decide how to move forward with the video. My original idea for the video was to pick out my favorite deck spreads, like the setups that I had, but my problem is, now that I'm looking at them and going through them, I have a really hard time making that decision. There's only a couple of setups that I did not really enjoy as much as others, because I feel like I forced the timing on them. I wanted to use the zombie deck at Halloween, and I wanted to use my Deviant Moon kind of around that time. And those I enjoyed. Not that I enjoyed the deck less, but I enjoyed the setup less than I probably could have. So, out of all the decks that I'm showing on here, the Zeke's Arcana did not work out with its setup. The Zombie Tarot really did work out, but I felt like it wasn't. I felt like it was forced, and I really did. I just wanted to use it during Halloween. And the Deviant Moon, I believe that one did not want to come out so soon. I think it wanted to wait. One thing I wanted to point out about all of my deck setups is that through travel and all the time that I spent doing other things, as well as like journaling and tarot, I was still very invigorated. My attention was still very focused on these setups, and I was able to continue with the process that was laid out. The system that I made was so easily I could evolve. It could evolve through the year and through our travels, and all my moods, really. When I was journaling, it worked out so nicely, and that's why I didn't want to change much of anything with the coming year. I just wanted to try and learn different styles of reading, so not adjusting too much, to just keep it as close to the original inspirational system that I had, and use that to get better. So, what did I learn? Well, if I were just to tell people about my experience over the last 6 months and how I use the decks, I would say that the biggest thing I learned was that you don't need your guidebooks. You don't have to read a ton of books to get to know your decks. The most important part about getting to know your decks is to spend time with them and to incorporate them maybe slowly into your system. so that you can get a feel for their personality, and not to try and, force a lot of time with them, or for me, it was easier to take them in small bites to begin with, and then get to know their personalities as I used them more. But I had less success with spending lots of time with a single deck, and more success with little bits of time and multiple decks. So, how has my practice changed from the time that I've started doing my deck setup like this? Well, from July to January, I feel like my journal has bloomed. I've just had a wonderful experience with my journal, doodling and sketching and playing like a child in my journal, and wantless abandon, just having so much fun writing down the spreads, and just haphazardly drawing anything that I see around me. I don't really have to, I don't feel like I have to do a particular subject. So the journal before this one, I drew one of the cards from my not spread. I would draw a card a day, and that particular card would be the one that I would draw into my sketchbook. And it was it was a rule. I made a rule for myself that I would draw my cards, not just pick them, but draw a picture of my cards. So that, for that year, was great, but it was very regimented, and I didn't learn so much about the decks, the cards, and the card meanings as I did just practicing sketching. And this year, from July to now, I feel like, or from July till January, because we're about to go into February, I feel like I've been able to sketch however I want to, no rules, just to do it, make sure I do it, and journal equally. So these first couple of weeks in January, I've changed things up a little bit, and I have not been sketching as much. It feels like, outside of my successful July to January system, I'm either sketching or I'm journaling stories and spreads with words. I'm writing, and I didn't want to have to choose the two things. I didn't want to have to choose between the two things. I have a lot of interests, and I would very much like to incorporate all of them into a single journal, a single project. But it seems to be more difficult than I expected. The act of drawing is, it can be kind of discouraging if there's any kind of insecurities about it, if you don't know what you want to draw, if you feel like you don't want it to look terrible, if you feel insecure about someone seeing it. And from July to January, I really did not have those kind of stressors around sketching, but seems like all the times before that and since then, there's been a little worry about, am I doing enough sketching? Am I doing enough writing? Am I studying the cards? the way I should, and I think moving forward, I will just be more cognizant about my sketch journal being separate and my writing journal, what I've been using, just trying a little harder because I don't want to be lazy. And I think a lot of my issues with sketching is really my own problem. I just have to work around all these obstacles that are really my own Eight of Swords, the rules I've placed on myself. So, so moving forward, that's what I'll do. I do feel like my spiritual practice has changed because I have found better ways to calm myself and make my demeanor more subdued. I'm less of a obnoxious, crazy woman. Maybe not much less sometimes, but definitely less most of the time. I don't do resolutions anymore. I do try to make positive changes in my life, but I'm not trying to make myself quote unquote better. What I am working toward is developing a bit more charisma in my own way, making longer lasting friends. I don't think it's a bad idea to change up my routine every 6 months, so I won't be surprised if in July I decide to change this setup and do something different. Taking my decks for granted, I don't want to get bored. I don't want you guys to get bored. I think that the change is really good for, for me, for sure. And if it helps to change things up to make growth happen, then I'm all for it. I also will be trying to incorporate astrology into my practice, but I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to start that. I've talked about it, and it's been, I don't know, I've been putting it off, to be honest, with writing things down and really studying, but yeah, I feel like it's time. I need to go ahead and dig in and get that going. The randomness of these deck spreads has really opened my eyes to how there really are no rules. You can just make it up as you go along. You can let things flow and move at your pace and at the deck's pace, and I'm kind of surprised at how forgiving the system is for myself. I'm also very interested in discovering the secrets of any kind of spirits or energies we have around our property. I'm working on a belief system in that and what makes sense to me. Maybe the cards would help with that. I'm not sure. I've got friends on YouTube that suggest that the decks can help bring some of these answers to light. used to desire decks like all the time. I was constantly shopping for new decks and saying, I don't have that one, I don't have that one, and I don't have that one. And when I would get them in, oftentimes I would get them in and it would be like a disappointment because the cardstock is too thin and there's a dent on the side of the box. And to be honest with you, since I've been doing these with the setup of 4, the strengths of one deck pull up the other decks. So if I have a weak, quote unquote, weak deck, it doesn't show nearly as much, and I'm so much more satisfied. I don't know if that makes sense to say it that way, but I am so satisfied with my deck collection because I put them in this arrangement and read from them in this way. And even though I may change things later and I may shuffle things around with the deck spreads and the questions that I ask, the prompts that I use, I believe that I am more satisfied because these decks work together to be stronger as a group than as individuals. I'm still working on being an eloquent writer. I've never been a writer. I don't care to write. It's not my strong suit. So the reason why I'm doing it, I have no idea. I feel called to do it. I feel like I have to do it. So I'm trying my best to just satisfy whatever powers out there are compelling me. But my strong suit is drawing and painting. So I'm going to have to find a middle ground. I'm going to need to lean on my decks for support in making decisions about, do I express myself with words, or do I express myself with pictures, or do I find a way to bring them together? I'm not sure. I've never really been good at bringing them together, so stay tuned. On the next episode, we may find out. Yeah, I have learned a lot. I've grown a lot. I have a clear view of what I want for myself as a grandmother, as a tarot reader, as a believer in the spiritual realm. I know where I want to go. I'm not always sure how to get there, and I'm not always sure if what I'm doing is effective, but I know how I feel, and I've been feeling really good, guys. I've been feeling really good. I hope that you'll continue to follow along and see any kind of progress I might have. I hope that you are making progress on your own as well. There are so many people out there encouraging you, being your cheerleaders, and wanting nothing more than to be able to push you to your goal and put that information in front of you that you need to get what you want, get what you deserve in your life. So if any of this has helped you at all, I'm so glad. And if not, maybe come back to it later. Maybe it'll speak to you at a different time. But you guys take care. I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you later. Bye.